that better? Should have had this morning. Everybody wouldn't have went to sleep. Shane come in tonight was truly worried about my health and well-being for my wife this morning. So it wasn't as bad as you may have thought. Man, I'm loud, ain't I? Am I not loud? Pretty loud, ain't I? I may hack here in a minute, just wake everybody up.
That's better than got him.
All right. Yeah. Has anybody ever asked, we'll start out by, has anybody ever asked you how you were doing and you said, I'm fine? Anybody ever come across with that response, I'm fine? But you really didn't mean it. You really didn't mean that you were fine. You ever come across with that? Hey, how are you? Well, I'm fine. Well, no, you're really not fine. There's something going on. My wife's that way. I'll go ahead, I'll just step in it big time tonight. She's that way. She's a person that don't want to. I want to verbalize my issues. I want to talk through them, and she's I'm fine type person. And goes on. Any ones that way? I'm fine. Just keep it to yourself. I got to reading a story about a farmer named Joe that made a mistake once of saying I'm fine. It was an accident that Joe was in, and he got hurt finally bad enough that he took a trucking company that was responsible for the accident. He took them to court. And in court, the trucking company's fancy lawyers was questioning Farmer Joe. He said, didn't you say at the scene of the accident, I'm fine? Farmer Joe said, well, I'll tell you what happened. I just loaded my favorite mule, Bessie, into the trailer. The lawyer interrupted and said, I didn't ask for any details. He said, I'm asking you, did you not answer at the scene when they asked you how you were? You said, I'm fine. He said, well, I just had loaded my favorite mule, Bessie, in the trailer and took off down the road. And the lawyer looked at the judge and says, Judge, he's not answering the question. I asked him whether or not he said I'm fine. The judge was kind of curious of what the farmer was going to tell. He said, so just hold on, I'm going to give him a little leniency here, and I want to hear Farmer Joe's story. And he said, well, I just have loaded my favorite mule, Bessie, into the trailer and took off down the road. When the truck come through, blowed through a stop sign, and hit my truck, trailer and all flipped. I come out of the truck, and Bessie did too. Okay. Well, the trooper come to the scene, and I seen when he got out, old Bessie, she was hurt bad. Said she was over there a whimpering and a moaning and a neighing, and I know she was in terrible shape. And I told the highway patrolman, said, go help Bessie, go help Bessie. The highway patrolman come to the conclusion that Bessie was too far gone to be saved, so he pulled his gun out and put Bessie out of her misery. So the highway patrolman run back over to Farmer Joe, and he said, well, how are you? With his gun drawn. He said, so I didn't want to answer anything, but I'm fine. So I guess there was a good reason why the lawyer didn't want the whole story told. But sometimes you ever thought about that answer as I'm fine? Sometimes we answer that question to ourselves when God's dealing with our lives and in our lives, and we answer that question to Him, I'm fine. He says, Micah, why don't you go pray with someone? Or why don't you testify? You answer Him, I'm fine, I'm all right. Or, Micah, why don't you study tonight and study a little more? Maybe your sermon may be over 10 minutes or something. I'm fine. Or Mickey comes up and, Micah, how was your day? Are you doing okay? Well, I'm fine. Well, really, it was a terrible day. You see, God puts people in our lives that can influence us, right? Dad had us this morning to fellowship and walk around and to encourage people. Well, God puts those people in our lives for a reason, right? Everybody agree with that? God puts people in our lives for encouragement for a reason. Maybe it's encouragement because they're going through something that we're going through currently, they've been through. And that person can help us out and can encourage us and give us pointers and be a scotch that will stand behind us. But in 1 Samuel 16 tonight, I'm just going to read one verse, 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. If you got your Bibles, you can turn there. If not, Shane will have it on the screen. 1 Samuel 16, chapter 16, verse 7 says, "But the Lord said unto Samuel, Look not on his countenance or the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord saith not as man saith. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." You see, sometimes we answer God with a question that He's asked us, or with something that He's required of us to do, that we have obedience. I'm fine. He knows what's on the heart. That tells us right there, doesn't it? See, there's things in our lives where we may fool man, right? Sometimes it's easy to fool man. I thought as a kid that I was doing things as a teenager that I had mom and dad fooled. Crazy did I know that I didn't have them fooled. I just thought I did. But God knew what was in my heart. God knew that at that time that Micah wasn't living right. That Micah wasn't doing the things that he was supposed to be doing. And while I may have thought that I had mom and dad fooled, I didn't have nothing pulled over in God. You ever thought about that? Just like today, we may have things going on in our lives that we answer that question as, I'm fine. But God knows truly on the inside that there's something wrong. God knows on the inside that everything's not fine. That there's something in there that needs some attention. Whether it's a sin in your life that you need to ask forgiveness of, whether it's something you've done to somebody else that you need to go ask them for forgiveness of, whatever the need may be in there, God knows that hey, that answer that Micah's given us, I'm fine, is not fine. See, there in Samuel it says that man looks on the outside, and to the outside sometimes can make a very good impression of something rotten on the inside. You ever bit into an apple and boy, it looks pretty. I mean pretty and shiny, and you rub it on your shirt a little bit, and you shine it up a little bit more, and take a big bite in it, and right there's a big wormhole right on the inside. Sometimes that's us. Sometimes we keep things in our lives and we keep answering that I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, till it's totally eaten at the inside of us because we've never given it to God and really made things fine in our life. See, just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that you can't have problems. Right? Just because you're saved doesn't mean that you're not going to have ups and downs and problems in your life that, hey, you're going to need help with. The answer, I'm fine, is not the appropriate answer all the time. There's nothing wrong to get down on your knees and say, it's me again, Lord. I got a prayer that needs an answer. As the old song says. It's me again, Lord. I've got a problem that I can't solve. You see, in life, everything's not always fine. In our Christian walk, everything's not always fine. In our relationships in our lives, everything's not always fine. You know a way to make it better, though? Is to put God right in the middle of all of it. When you put God right in the center of your Christian walk, and you stay right clicking right on His heels, I guarantee you'll not waver. Guarantee you'll not fall off the path. If you stay close enough walking behind Him that you can feel the dust kick up and hit you in the face from His sandals, you're moving just fine. But what happens too much? Somebody over here says, Micah, how you doing? Well, I'm fine. And before you know it, right off the bat. Just like in our relationships, I've said it I don't know how many times, the best relationship has God right in the center of it. It's entangled all the way around God. And if you keep Him at the center of it, your relationship can be better. Not going to be perfect. You know why? Because we're not perfect people. And you can't take two imperfect things and make something perfect out of it. Church, tonight, there's somebody here that's hurting. There's somebody here that's got something that's been gnawing on them and eating on them from the inside. And on the outside, they've shined it up and it looks really pretty. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the problem is. It's not my problem to know. It's between you and God. But I'll tell you right now, the answer can't continue to be, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. Because the longer you answer that question that He's saying, hey, or telling you that, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that, and you keep answering, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, you keep getting farther and farther and farther back behind Him on the path that you need to be on. Reed told me I shouldn't have lost so much weight. I'm walking him to death with that camera back there. Just wait till I lose a little more and I'm going to run. Church, tonight, if there's somebody here that is tired of polishing it up, shining it up on the outside, when everything on the inside is just so discombobulated, it's so just so tore up. If you're tired of that, there's no better time than tonight. There's no better place than right here to say, God, I'm not fine. I've kept you out of this way too long. I've kept you out of this problem in my life way too long. And I'm tired of wearing the mask. And I want to pull it off. And I want to give it all to you so you can make it better. Because there's not a problem that He can't solve. There's not an issue in your life that He can't help you fix. But the trick to it is you've got to let go of it and you've got to let Him have it. Then when you answer, I'm fine, you may just be that. That.
Go ahead. Let's stand. How many's been on their own or somewhere and maybe you made an altar? Maybe you have one at home. So many of the old trailblazers in my Christian life, some of the people that I had confidence in, maybe there was an old stump behind the house or an old rock. I remember there was a fellow by the name of Obed-Ho. Told me that when he was growing up as a boy that he went over to Shirley Baptist Church. They was having a revival. Before that revival ever started, they had what they call a grove service or whatever. They had a place outside that they prayed. Obed said he was walking up the road and he could see the people moving over in the grass. And said he got a looking and said some of the boys that he had grew up with, and some of the men there in the community had got on their knees and said the first words he heard was, Lord, if you would save Obed-Ho. He needs the Lord. what we doing on the church that night. When the invitations were given, he walked the aisle and got on his knees. And said, Lord, forgive me. Tonight, an altar's a place that we humble ourselves. As Micah said, maybe there's something there, and it's not for us to judge, it's for us to encourage one another. And because we come to this altar, don't mean that we're going to put our foot and say you're a bad person or you're wormy. I look at Sam every once in a while and I'd say, Sam, you're wormy. I know you're not supposed to call names. And he comes back and says, Papa, you're wormy. Don't be wormy. There's an answer to everything. There's an answer to prayer right here. There's an answer to the situations. There's an answer to any problem.
They called him Jesus.
What about it?
He came to love, heal and forgive.
Would you like to pray tonight?
He lived and died.
Would you like to pray?
To buy my pardon and live to
What about it tonight? Are they in need of life?
my Savior.
What about it tonight? Don't let it be wormy. Don't let the outside be pretty and the inside not.
I can
Matter.
face